Factsverse presents Photos from the Past that show a different side to history. There are some once-in-a-lifetime photos out there that make you question everything you know about history. There are times when a lucky photographer was just in the right place at the right time and captured something astonishing. Here are a few photos from the past that show a different side to history. George Harrison and Stevie Nicks in 1978. George Harrison and Stevie Nicks, they couldn't be more different, which makes you wonder what these two were doing together. The pair were actually friends. She even helped him write the song Here Comes the Moon. Stevie says that the two ran into each other in Hawaii and a friendship blossomed. She also says that she takes this photo of her and George with her on tour because it gives her the inspiration to get up and perform even if she's completely exhausted. Theodore Geisel and his dog Rex in 1914. Theodore Geisel. You might not know that name specifically, but you do know his pen name, Dr. Seuss. He wasn't an actual doctor, of course, but he was a Seuss. Seuss was his mother's maiden name. Theodore grew up in Springfield, Massachusetts, where he worked with his father in the family brewery. Due to Prohibition, though, the brewery was shut down. As a young boy, he spent a lot of time at the local zoo, and he went with his mom and sister there and loved sketching the animals that he saw. And that's where Dr. Seuss got the inspiration for all of those weird and crazy animals in his stories. His mother probably didn't serve him green eggs and ham, though. At least, we hope she didn't. Alfred Hitchcock and his grandchildren on a sleigh ride. Alfred Hitchcock may have been the master of terror, but to his grandchildren, he was just Grandpa. According to his granddaughter, Terry O'Connell Carrubbs, the little girl in the middle of the photo, he loved to hang out with his grandchildren and have fun with them. He may have scared the world with his stories, but he made his grandchildren laugh. Grace Kelly on her wedding day in 1956. Most little girls dream of growing up and becoming a princess. Grace Kelly made the dream a reality when she married Monaco's Prince Rainier on April 18, 1856. On the day of her wedding, Grace wore a dress that took 6 weeks to make, and 30 people were needed to work on it. The happy couple had a star-studded guest list, including Ava Gardner, Cary Grant, and Gloria Swanson. Grace was overwhelmed on her big day, and according to her son Prince Albert, both of his parents thought the whole thing was just too much. The twins from The Shining take a break together in 1980. Twins Lisa and Louise Burns were the little girls who played the creepy twins in the horror film The Shining. In the movie, Danny rides his tricycle through the hotel and comes across the Grady twins, who were chopped up by their father while he took care of the hotel during the winter. As adults, the girls said that being in the film felt like they were invited to an exclusive party, and they were the youngest. They were asked to be on the set every day so that the boy who played Danny would have somebody to play with between takes. A baby in an overhead cradle on a plane in the early 50s. Traveling by plane with a baby in the 1950s meant your child would be napping in a sky cot. These cots hung off of the overhead compartment and it made for a perfect place for your baby. Today, of course, this would never be done. Most people don't want to check their bags, so the overhead compartments are full. Also, if a plane hits some turbulence, that baby can go flying. Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese's mother on the set of Goodfellas in 1989. While filming Goodfellas, Martin Scorsese had his mother on the set all the time. She was an incredible cook, and she provided food for the entire cast and crew. Mrs. Scorsese also provided the food for many of the scenes. In one scene, after a hit was carried out by Joe Pesci's Tommy DeVito, they went to his mother's house where she cooked food for everybody. Well, his mother was actually played by Scorsese's mother, and she cooked all the food in the scene. The prison scene where the men prepared the food, well, the recipe came from Scorsese's mother's cookbook. The cast of The Outsiders in 1983. This is a photo of Ralph Macchio, Rob Lowe, Patrick Swayze, Tom Cruise, Matt Dillon, Emilio Estevez, and C. Thomas Howell. This Francis Ford Coppola film tells the story of what it was like to grow up as a teen in the 1950s. Even though the movie was filmed in 1983, Coppola managed to capture the 50s nostalgia perfectly, and you can see it in this photo. What makes the photo even more iconic is that every one of these actors grew up to have hugely successful careers. Fearless Painters on the Woolworth Building in New York City in 1926. The Woolworth Building was one of the 50 tallest buildings in 1926. To make sure the building looked its best, a group of very brave painters who had serious faith in their harnesses had to climb to the top of the building to paint it. These guys look like they don't have a care in the world, even though they are hundreds of feet above the streets of New York City. The University of Texas women's track team practicing in 1964. If you go to a university to watch a women's track team practice, you'll see sweaty women with ponytails or buns in their hair. In the 60s, that was a lot different. These women look like they're posing for a magazine cover rather than at a track team practice. Their hair hair's done up so nicely it's hard to picture them actually running. A tree growing through an abandoned piano. This piano is located on the campus of California State University in Monterey, California. It was created by an artist named Jeff Mifflin, and it's called Piano Tree. The artist cut the main pieces of the piano in half and placed it around the tree. Over the years, the tree kept growing through the piano. Jeff says he created it because he wanted people to hear the ethereal sound of the wind through the leaves. It's actually a pretty amazing sight. Cow shoes, used by moonshiners in the Prohibition days in 1924. During Prohibition, rum runners, moonshiners, and bootleggers, they all had to do everything possible to avoid the law while making their own alcohol and selling it. They did everything possible to throw the police off of their scent. That included wearing cow shoes. They put pieces of wood on the bottom of their shoes to make their footprints look like hoof prints, and that'd make the police believe they were only cows in the area. The Hoover Dam under construction in 1934. The Hoover Dam is one of the projects that helped pull America out of the Great Depression. It was built in Black Canyon and cost $49 million to build. Today, that would be about $639 million. The construction of the dam gave 5,251 people jobs, which was greatly needed during that time. Kmart in the 70s. During the 1970s, Kmart was one of the biggest stores in the country. They carried everything from discount food to clothing. They also had a fun way to help you save money. When the blue lights turned on, you had an hour to score some extra savings. Remember those blue light specials, people? Well, the crowds in Kmart were incredible in the 70s. Today, however, there are very few Kmarts left in existence, thanks to other big box stores. Just divorced in 1934. For decades, people have been putting signs and empty cans on the back of their cars to celebrate a couple who had just gotten married. The man in this photo just got divorced, but he wanted to use the same tradition as when he got married. He may have been hurting, but he turned it into a hilarious photo op. The night watchdog at Macy's department store in 1954. Today, stores use modern security systems to protect their merchandise when the store is closed. Back in the 50s, the stores used watchdogs. Here's a photo of Macy's department store in New York City with a Doberman Pinscher guarding the merchandise. This was actually pretty common back then, and stores would often use German Shepherds and Dobermans because of their imposing appearance and loud barks. The telephone booth graveyard. Red telephone booths are popular in England. You ever wondered what happens to them when they've served their purpose? Well, in Carlton, Mineo, there are hundreds of phone boxes standing in disrepair. A lion cub visits a classroom in 1951. In 1951, Stan Hansen and his wife hosted a little lion cub in their Garden City, Kansas home. The lion's name was Kyla, and she spent a lot of time in the classroom. She was so popular that people all over visited the school just to meet this sweet little lion cub. Eventually, of course, kids grow up, and so do cubs. It was too dangerous for her to go to school or live in the Hansen home at that point, so they moved her to a local zoo where she could be with other lions, turning Daryl Hannah into a mermaid in Splash. One of the biggest hits in the movies for the 1980s was Splash. This photo was taken in 1984, and it shows John Candy, Tom Hanks, and Eugene Levy hanging out with Daryl Hannah while makeup and wardrobe were turning her into a mermaid. It took about 8 hours to put on her tail and hand paint it. It was such a long process that her co-stars would hang out with her just so she wouldn't get bored. Subscribe for more.